Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So I hope that you have had an amazing Christmas and you got to spend it with your family and loved ones. And yeah, I've been itching to make videos. The stock market was closed for Monday, but finally today it was over and Rocket Lab has gone up again. The price is at 5.60 something, completely crazy. I'm so happy to see the stock this up. And I hope a lot of you have made a lot of money on the stock. I know that some people who have bought early, they are close to break even on the stock. So I hope that 2024 is going to be the year when you start to be in the green on the stock. But it's time to talk about what I think that the stock is going to do in 2024. And I want to give you my two scenarios. And one of them is that Rocket Lab might do a Palantir in 2024. Maybe it's going to do the Palantir year, what Palantir did in 2023, which is it started the year at $6 and it looks like we're ending the year at $18. So we 3x'd, and this might happen to Rocket Lab this year. But let me explain to you how. And of course, there's a lot of risks and this is not a guarantee, and probably all the or most of the future predictions turn out to be wrong anyways, but hey, I like to shoot myself in the foot with these videos. So anyways, let's get going, and please make sure you hit the subscribe button if you like this video. So at first, I need to make a correction because I made a terrible mistake in my last video. This is what happens when you shoot the videos late and I do my stock market research after my kids have gone to bed, and sometimes you make mistakes. And somehow none of you guys called me out on it. But here is the mistake. So we got this amazing new contract, and I was saying how this contract is basically putting Rocket Lab to almost cash flow positive. And I think that the stock didn't appreciate enough to reflect how good this contract actually was. And I was breaking out the numbers of the contract and how much money this would bring per quarter. And then if you count with their gross margin, then that gross margin is going to be 10 million per quarter. And here is where I made the mistake. I said in a let me just make me very small so you guys can see. So in this version that I said that if the contract, because we don't know, so those of you who have not been following, Rocket Lab has gotten a over $500 million contract to deliver 18 satellites. And the contract says that it begins immediately. And the only way that I can understand immediately is that it begins Q1 2024, because they just got the contract before Christmas. It's Christmas, probably not a lot of work days. And hopefully Rocket Lab is working hard to shoot up one last rocket that they still promised us this year. So the only way I can understand it is it starts in Q1 2024, and then it said that the 18 satellites need to be delivered in 2027. However, they don't specify if it's the beginning of 2027 or the end of 2027. And if it's the beginning of 2027, then this is going to be divided in only 3 years, 2024, 2025, and 2026. And that would be 40 million per quarter in increased revenue. And the gross profit would be 14.26 million per quarter. And here's where I made the mistake. I wrote the one that is in parentheses. So somehow I messed up and I thought that it was 14 million gross profit per month. And I said that in 9 months, that's 128 million. And I showed you guys how Rocket Lab in the first 9 months of 2023 was burning $100 million. And I'm like, hey, this might put them cash flow positive. But it's not as good as it sounds because of this mess up. So it's actually, the good version is only 42.78 million. So it only takes out half their cash burn. However, there's so much data that we don't know, because they gave a very high guidance for Q1 2024. And my question is, were they thinking with this contract already, or this new contract is on top of this crazy good guidance that they have given us? And because we know that they're going to earn more money next year, if I add that guidance and the gross profit from that guidance, it gets them very, very close to cash flow positive, and because they have $400 million cash on account. And if they start burning, maybe 30 million in 9 months, those 400 million is enough for a very, very, very long time. And on top of it, we know that they have increased cash burn because they're developing Neutron. And Neutron is going to be, hopefully, knock on wood, developed in 2024. And that will also significantly increase their income and lessen the cash burn. So we are very, very close to cash flow positive and GAAP positive with this company. And this is very, very important for me, and I will tell you why. So my 2024 Rocket Lab predictions. So let's talk about the risks first. On last Rocket Lab Weekly, Nico Bierkholz actually asked a very interesting question. He said, how low can the stock go? So this is when you invest in Rocket Lab, this is what is your risk, right? How low can the stock go? And I think that if you look at Rocket Lab chart, where it is, I prepared it for this video. So in this time period, we have had everything happen to the stock. We had major insider selling, Peter Beck sold. We had rockets blowing up. We had the Fed tightening, raising interest rates, qualitative tightening. And basically we had everything, including the kitchen sink, thrown at the stock, and the stock only went down to, at the lowest point, 3.6. Now, for me, I cannot see how the stock that is, close to cash flow positive, close to developing Neutron, is getting this major government contract, is going to have 22 new launches next year, and is basically firing on all cylinders or rocket engines. It's not logical for me that the stock is able to go below this price. And if it comes near this price, I might have to YOLO in like you have never seen me YOLO in before. So I think that this is the lowest point. And I managed to buy pretty close to it. These are my two buys on the stock. And I managed to buy, my cost basis on the stock is 4.22. So yes, this is, I think, the risk. So if the stock goes down, it's not really real to me that we would go below this point, which is 360 on the chart. And I think that if the company is executing, it would just be a major buying opportunity. So that was the risk. Now let's talk about alternative one. So I feel that Rocket Lab's price has been super irrational. So this is just me telling you what is so hard about predicting Rocket Lab's price. So for example, we had a successful Electron launch, and this successful Electron launch heralded in an era where we are going to have a launch every 17 days. We are going to basically increase 100% the number of launches. Neutron is soon being developed. And so basically it was the beginning of this era, and the day after the successful rocket launch, the stock opened crazy high, and in pre-market it was crazy high, like 10% something. It opened on zero and it fell 10 something percent. So it almost like the intraday move of the stock was 20%, and we almost fell as much as when the Electron rocket blew up. So the stock is very irrational. And on top of it, I think that the stock has been crazy undervalued in the fours. Now we're a lot higher. I still think that we are undervalued. And I think that this is because there is not a lot of profitable space companies. The only really successful space company is SpaceX, that has a crazy valuation. Everybody else, basically the investors, have burned themselves with, and they're burning, large piles of cash. They need investments, and it has been horrible investment for the other investors. And I think that this irrationally weighs in on the stock, because somehow the investors, they have this, when you have been beaten up and then you just don't want to touch space stocks anymore. Then on top of it, so this is not a cash flow positive company. We're still burning cash. So there's a lot of question marks, sort of, not in my head, but I'm telling you how like other investors from the outside would look at this company. So there's a lot of question marks if this is even a legit company, if they're going to survive. And on top of it, a lot of the company's future is staked on the Neutron rocket. And the Neutron rocket is in development. What if it goes under budget? What if it gets delayed? And this, despite the fact, I don't know why, like people, when they hear Rocket Lab, they think this is a rocket launch company. That's what the name is. But the rocket launching is only 33% of the company, and space systems is 66%. And that part of the company is also doing fantastic. But somehow people associate and think that we are just a rocket company. And this is why Neutron has a super big hold on the company's future and how people perceive it. So I think that if these fears stick around and they don't get addressed and there is delays in Neutron, I think that we can be stuck in a range between $4 to $6, where the whole year the stock will like go up to $6 and then get sold down to $4. And that would just be basically a continuation of this pattern, I don't know if that is going to happen, but this is a likely scenario for me. And now let's go to the Palantir scenario. So basically what happened to Palantir, the reason why we went from $6 to $18 is because at the beginning of the year, people said Palantir would never become GAAP profitable. They're a consulting company. They're not even a software company. And basically what happened is we got the multiples contracted and they just came back to normal. Now Palantir is being valued as a normal software company that is in the AI space, so a little bit of premium there. But so from now on, basically it was the multiples and the market perception that changed about Palantir, and now we are fairly valued, and now the stock price should follow the growth of Palantir. So if Palantir is growing 20%, I think the stock price should go 20% per year. And I think that Rocket Lab is in a little bit of a similar situation, that a lot of people are wondering, can this company even become cash flow positive? Is even a market, is it even possible to survive next to SpaceX? They will probably, I was also in this camp, that they will probably need to dilute shareholders very much. I'm no longer really in this camp because of, recent developments. Obviously, the next earnings call will be super interesting, and what guidance and what they give there. So I think that if, Neutron is going good, there's more announcements of bigger contracts that they get, and basically this fear of them going bankrupt and them somehow showing that they're very close to cash flow positive, it could be that the stock gets re-rated and, it will start being rated as a successful space company, and they will compare it more towards SpaceX, and it will get much higher multiples, and then maybe we blow up and we go into a $10 to $15 range in the stock price, and from then on we should just get the growth of the company. So if the company is growing 40% per year, we should get 40% increase in the stock price. It would be very, very nice if this happened, but one thing that is sad for me is I feel that, or what would be said on this version is, I feel that a lot of retail investors are just now discovering Rocket Lab. We're getting a lot more coverage on the stock. It's a lot more in people's minds. And I would love that retail could really buy into this stock and win when it goes up. And I would hate to see that there's a few of us in the stock, we go up to 15, and that's when the masses come in and pile into the stock. So I think that the best for retail, what could happen is that we go to this $6 to $4 range and the stock goes up and then comes down, and we can all increase our positions. And when we finally, make it with Neutron, the stock becomes cash flow positive, then we all have a much bigger position than we would normally have, and therefore the win will be much greater. So this is my wish for the retail Rocket Lab shareholders. So these were my price projections. Of course, it's impossible to predict what is going to happen in the future. Case in point, everybody thought 2023 was going to be one of the worst years in recorded history on the stock market, and then it turned out to be one of the best years. So take everything I said with a gigantic grain of salt. Let me know in the comments what your projections are and what is your buying point for the stock. And if you have been watching so far, then you are amazing. And if you felt that you got value out of this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon. In the future, I'm going to upload all my valuations, all my stock theses on a select few number of stocks. So in this channel, I want to dive very deep into a select few companies. This is never going to be a channel where I'm going to just talk about, very random stock news. Because I feel that if you always talk about new stocks, then you don't really know a lot. And I want to be very concentrated on very high conviction names and invest into them very, very long term and, help you follow along on the ride on those specific stocks. But if you join Patreon, you make me very happy, but you're basically doing it just to support the channel. And in that case, really thank you. So hopefully you had a very Merry Christmas. The new year starting soon. I wish you the best, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.